Next up, alignment. And although the principles I've showed you up to now are certainly important, right? We talked about how critical dominance is, but I'm going to tell you this. In terms of situations where you're responsible for improving something, okay, existing designs, redesign situations, update situations, upgrade situations, alignment is the most important visual design principle I can teach you because it's the one I see broken most often. And it's also the one where if you change nothing else but alignment, the improvements in usability and user experience are staggering. Okay. And I mean that by metrics. Okay. You see things like time to completion or increase in conversion in sales, people who actually get through the checkout process. The numbers shoot up dramatically if you do nothing but improve alignment. So I want to walk you through this. Even if you do nothing but use proper alignment, your designs will be infinitely more useful, usable, and understandable, which also, of course, makes them more valuable. Here's a great example. This is a form from Viterbo, or however you pronounce that, university. I see a lot of forms like this. I'm sure you see a lot of forms like this, especially in older legacy systems and institutional enterprise type stuff. Here's the problem with this. There are a million entry points. There are a million starting points for elements. Last name, gender, state, zip code, cell, email, grad year, everything starts at a different point. These are all areas that the eye reads, fixates on, and jumps between. It is very hard to land someplace, to settle someplace, and to quickly move through a form like we've seen in previous examples because there's no common starting point. So what that looks like, if we abstract it, is this. You see how everything is just sort of randomly scattered? See how the fields are, nothing is aligned with anything. The labels aren't aligned, the fields aren't aligned. There's inconsistencies between spacing all over the place. There's no balance, there's no rhythm, there's no harmony. And there's also no dominance. Right now, there are too many visual paths that catch the eye's attention, and none of them are working together. Okay, see all the different starting and stopping points? Every one of those arrows is something that the brain and the eyes have to look at and move on, look at and move on, look at and move on. It's trying to make relationships, and there's just too much to deal with. By properly aligning these fields and labels like this, we create fewer paths for the eye to follow. Doing this makes hand-eye coordination of scanning end-to-end form completion, in this case, much, much faster. Okay, big difference. You see how many entry paths we have now? What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, where God only knows how many we had previously. You'll also notice that the ends of each form are consistent wherever possible. Okay, those green arrows, it's not enough just to align the left edges. We're also being conscious of where the right edges wind up. All right, the more alignment we have across both sides, the better. The easier this is to use, the quicker someone can sort of scan it and get through it. So we went from this with all these multiple paths for the eye to check out and follow, even those outlines around everything, to this, where we only have a few visual paths to follow. Do you see the difference? And again, I want to harp on these outlines, and I see this all the time. Designers and developers have a tendency to want to enclose everything. Everything has to be in its own box. Those rules, those lines, those boundaries do nothing but create more visual noise. Okay? They serve no purpose. You don't need them in a situation like this. The negative space between those fields, the negative spaces between the labels and the fields, the proximity of those things, all work together to hold everything together. Okay? So just adding those boundaries is visual noise. Don't do it. Get in the habit of not putting a rule or a line or a stroke around anything unless you absolutely positively have to, because there's no other way you can figure out to separate it.